A Sharper is a highly anticipated film that features an all-star cast, including Julianne Moore, Sebastian Stan, John Lithgow, Justice Smith, and Briana Middleton. Moore plays a seductive single mother who sets her sights on an incredibly wealthy businessman, played by Lithgow, while her disgraced son, played by Stan, works his own angle to win a fortune. The film is directed by Benjamin Caron, who is best known for his work on the Emmy-winning series The Crown. The neo-noir thriller explores the cutthroat world of New York City's elite, where characters compete for riches and power in a high-stakes game of ambition, greed, lust, and jealousy. No one is who they seem in the city's bedrooms, barrooms, and boardrooms, and the film keeps audiences guessing up until the very end. The film is inspired by a long line of great films that love to keep audiences guessing, including The Usual Suspects, The Color of Money, and more. Moore is co-producing the film alongside Erik Feig, Jessica Switch, Bart Freundlich, and screenwriters Brian Gatewood and Alessandro Tanaka. Julia Hammer and Amy Herman serve as executive producers. Sharper is highly anticipated not just because of its all-star cast and experienced director, but also because it explores a world of power, greed, and ambition in the elite circles of New York City. The film is expected to be a slick and intriguing thriller that keeps audiences on the edge of their seats until the very end. Look for it on Apple TV Plus this weekend. Let's talk to John Lithgow, who plays Richard Hobbs in the film. Great to see you, John. Tell me about the story in Sharper.
I don't want you to know the story of Sharper. I want you to be completely surprised by Sharper, and I think you will. It's a mystery, so it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You find out more and more and more as it goes along, and everything you find out surprises you. It jumps forward and backward in time. The plotting is like a steel trap. You can't miss a single sentence. You've got to really pay attention. But, you know, it's like a bunch of gears that all come crashing together at the end. It's my favorite kind of movie.
Great stuff. What overall themes are running through the movie?
It takes the whole notion of greed and envy and revenge. It takes all those simple human urges, the unsavory urges in all of us, and spins a story out of it. Everybody wants more, and everybody envies other people for having more. This just explodes it into pathology. But these are really smart people, all of them. And they require you to be really smart to follow all their strategies.
I love it. So tell me more about the cast.
The cast of Sharper is 5 really, really good actors, not to sound self-congratulatory, but they're playing characters who are really good actors. So they're sort of shadows inside of shadows. The whole notion of putting on a really, really good act is sort of key to every single plot twist. And you got to be a good actor to do it, to pull it off. A good actor has to play a good actor.
Let's get even more specific. What was it like working with Julianne Moore?
I've always wanted to work with Julianne. She's one of the most original and courageous actors working today, and she's been working for 3 decades now. She has done so many extraordinary things on film. If you think of The Big Lebowski, the same actress has done amazing roles in The Big Lebowski, Boogie Nights, The End of the Affair, not to mention her Oscar-winning role. And she just loves to act. She loves to act. But as original as she is, she's equally courageous. She will do anything. And I can't quite imagine this film without her. It just takes that much audacity as an actor.
Interesting. How did you enjoy working with Sebastian Stan?
Sebastian is my great new friend. My longest and most complicated scene is the one I shot first, and it was with Sebastian all day long. It's like a 5-page scene. Walking in, walking upstairs, settling down, sitting in chairs. with all sorts of events taking place. One of those complicated scenes where you have to be on your toes and really working with somebody who's really sharp. Well, what a great way to start. And I found out so much about him, his fascinating background, how he came to acting. By the end, I was insisting that he write a play about his own life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Tell me about your character, Richard Hobbs.
Richard's character has lost his first wife, and he still has a son from whom he is somewhat estranged. And into his life has come this new love, who is just what he deep down always longed for. He just longed for this woman, and he found her just in time. And Julianne plays that woman. He's a very powerful man, very self-assured. He's pulled himself up from his bootstraps and thinks everybody else should too. But he's addled with love late in his life, and he's afraid of death. So he's got power, love, and fear all cooking inside him.
Sounds intriguing. Last, what can you say about working with director Benjamin Caron?
This is Ben's first feature. He's been in charge of some of the best actors in the world on The Crown, and they all just loved working for him. I mean, that's quite an achievement right there for a young director. When I was driven to the first rehearsal, the driver, one of the transportation crew, said he'd gotten this letter from Ben Caron that had been sent to every single member of the crew. He said it's the first time he'd ever gotten a letter like that, welcoming them to the whole project. And I said, yeah, I got that letter too. This sense that we are all in this together and it's going to be fantastic. It's extremely rare.
Fantastic insights, and I'm excited to see how the final product turns out. Next, let's talk to Julianne Moore, who plays Madeline in Sharper. Great to see you, Julianne. Start by telling me why you took this project on.
So the script came to me about 2 years ago because my manager, Erin Brown, represents a lot of writers, and she said, I really want you to meet these guys, and they've written this script called Sharper that I think that you're going to love. So she sent it to me, and I was absolutely astonished by the script. It was so wild and fun and entertaining and had such great characters. We met and I said, I really, really love this and I want to come aboard and I want to play Madeline and, let's do it and let's try to get this going and let's produce it ourselves. They're such extraordinary writers. The characters are so full and exciting and developed and surprising. And for me, I think one of the things that I think has been missing when I look for material is that kind of character work. Where the drama is driven by what these people are doing and saying to each other, not by some sort of outside action. That has always been the most fascinating thing to me as an actor, watching relationships on film.
That's interesting. How did Benjamin Caron as director influence your decision?
Well, there was a vetting process, for the directors too. This was interesting for me because this was really my first time on the other side of it, like as a producer. I've been developing other things, but this one sort of just kind of came together in the most wonderful way. And then once we had Apple and A24 and Picture Start aboard, that's when we all sort of put our heads together and started looking for a director. And there were many candidates. There really were. There were lots of really, really interesting people who were interested in the script. And Ben was someone who read the script very early on and threw his hat in the ring. And for me, the fact that he had that much enthusiasm for the project, it was really important. It's like you want someone to kind of come to it with the sort of passion that you have for it. And then we had, once again, we had these kind of crazy Zoom meetings where everyone's all over the world. And Ben just had a magnificent pitch. But he has a, you can see from his work in The Crown, actually, that his sense of character and of how people relate to one another in a kind of a most personal way. How all these interactions, even if they are historical ones that we see in The Crown, are in fact personally motivated. That really, it's very present in his work. And that was something that I responded to very much. And as he did his pitch, it was interesting. He kind of went through each character one by one and talked about what they were personally and what they were symbolically and what they meant to one another and what kind of element they brought to the film. And he just had he had a clarity, I think an intellectual clarity about it, and an emotional clarity, and a visual clarity as well. He was someone who saw the movie in a very specific way, and we all just fell in love with him. He's just great. And above and beyond, he's just the most wonderful person to work with. He's so incredibly collaborative, and I think makes everyone feel like I don't know, it's just a delightful day at work when you're with him.
Let's dive into the cast. What was it like working with Sebastian Stan?
I'm so happy about this cast of actors. I think they're really interesting, really different, and surprising. Sebastian Stan is somebody that I really, really admired. I loved his work, and I think that the energy he brings to Max is just extraordinary. And we needed him to do something very specific. I think each of these characters is incredibly mutable. I think that's one of the things as human beings are, right? We're not, everyone has lots of different dimensions. And I think Sebastian was really able to bring that dimensionality to his character. He's very vibrant, very, very alive on screen.
Fascinating. What about Justice Smith?
Justice Smith, we needed somebody really specific to play Tom. He has a sweetness about him, and an openness, and a sense of joy, I think, and also a soulful quality. And he anchors the movie. He's the very first person you see when you start this film. So he's been just fantastic.
I love it. How did you get along with John Lithgow?
John Lithgow is someone I've admired for such a long time. He's so accomplished and so incredibly kind, and really just every ounce of him is exciting to watch on screen. It was wonderful to work with him.
Sounds fun. What about Briana Middleton?
Briana Middleton is brand new, really right out of school. And there was a lot of discussion about that as we were casting, who's going to play Sandra? Because Sandra is obviously a very central figure in the movie, and a lot of the plot revolves around, what happens to Sandra. And so there were always lots of suggestions. People were like, what about this person? What about that person? And we had a lot of really wonderful choices. And then to find her, to find this girl who's just brand new, who's right out of school, who's so talented and so spectacularly beautiful. The camera loves her. You can't take your eyes off of her. It's just it's a thrill, and it's really, really fun to discover someone new.
With such a talented cast and great script, what was it that drew you to this film?
The thing that really drew me to this, is it is a character piece. And it's an ensemble. When I look at the history of the movies that I've made, I realize I've made a lot of ensemble movies because I think I'm drawn to them. I think that life is an ensemble movie, right? We all kind of exist in this world of people that we relate to. So I like to be in them. I like to watch them. So I was drawn to it for that reason. And I was drawn to it because it's entertaining. It's really funny. It's very mysterious. It's surprising. I think it's the kind of thing that people are really going to want to watch.
Fantastic. Tell me more about the New York setting.
I love New York. I've been here for, really my entire adult life, minus a few years here and there. But it's interesting because Ben, of course, is English. And when he was pitching this, he also talked about maybe moving the movie to London or Berlin. And I was like, no. I said, this is a New York story. This is very, very much about, I think Manhattan and New York in particular is a place where everything is allowed. You can be whoever you want to be. There don't seem to be any kind of parameters to what people can experience here. I wanted that in this movie. I wanted that feeling of anything can happen here because it's in New York City.
That's great to hear. I know we're running short on time, but can you tell me more about your love of acting?
What do I love about acting? What don't I love about acting? I think what's been interesting for me is that the longer I do it, the more I like it. I didn't expect that to happen. There's something about, I think, being in a film set, particularly, that appeals to me because it's such a tremendous, it's a collective effort. It's an enormous collaboration. It's like everybody's area of expertise is their own area of expertise, and so you find people sometimes that have like I always say, actors have an expertise that's like very deep, very narrow. Like we know our character, we know what we're doing, but we you rely on the other actors to know their business. The director kind of has an amazing overview. You have a production designer who creates these worlds, a costume designer who dresses us and defines us that way. Things are shaped and lit very specifically, and the camera's framing something. So behind all of those things are individuals who are doing it. So the best part of film acting is the creation of this object, which is a film, by so many talented people.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for the insights, Julianne. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Finally, let's talk to Sebastian Stan, who plays Max in The Sharper. Sebastian, it's great to see you. Tell me more about your character, Max.
Max essentially is many different personalities in the film, and it's always a bit of a guessing game, or I guess it was a guessing game for me, reading the script, trying to identify which actually was the real Max versus what was a character that he was putting forward.
Sounds interesting. What can you tell me about the role of money in the film?
History has certainly given us a pretty good track record of what people will do for money. In terms of the context of our film, clearly they'll do anything for it, and that's what's scary about it, especially when other people's emotions are at stake. The movie has a real edge when it comes to that particular theme, which is money, and it doesn't shy away or hold any punches from sort of showing how cunning people can be for self-interest.
Sounds about right. So what do you think are the big takeaways for this movie?
For me, at least, like, what's interesting is looking at these characters and kind of learning from them, I suppose, and asking ourselves, okay, well, how am I vulnerable in the sense to believe one thing over the other? What does someone have to do or say to me to get me to do something or to believe something or to act on something, and I think that's a very universal sort of theme to relate to.
Should be relatable. How did you like working with Julianne Moore?
Julianne plays Madeline, and I have a lot of scenes with her, and I think she was maybe 85%, 90% the reason I wanted to work on this film, to be able to work opposite her, one of my favorite actors of all time. It's just been incredible getting to know her and to spend time on set, kind of working opposite her, but then also just connecting with her off camera, and just incredibly generous person, very open, and clearly enjoys and loves the process of making a movie, connecting with other actors, and for me that's just been such a huge learning lesson, to sort of stand back and watch her work and then actually be able to talk to her about certain moments.
That's great. What was it like working with Briana Middleton?
Well, Briana equally is incredibly perceptive and sort of present and commanding, and really it has that sort of essence and power that when she walks in a room, your eyes just immediately go to her. You're drawn to her in a certain way, and I think she's given Sandra such a complex, kind of really intelligent, very multi-layered emotional sort of background. When your work is sort of repeating the same thing over and over again, and you get somebody who actually is looking for ways to consistently kind of keep the thing interesting and surprising, it's a gift, right? So she has all those qualities, and I don't know, I think, and she's very funny, actually, as well. Has a really good sense of humor.
Wonderful insight. So what do you think about con artists as actors?
Well, con artists are really good actors. I mean, all those movies that were about kind of people pretending to be other people. I mean, Catch Me If You Can, that's a real person. I mean, he got away with a lot, and he got away with a lot from learning it in the movies. Everybody's an actor at the end of the day. It's just certain people are using that to their own advantage, and that's sort of what this movie is.
I can get behind that idea. Final question. How do you want audiences to view this film?
Every scene has multiple messages, and it's just about how you perceive it. And I would just say, if you think you know what's going on, after you've seen the movie, watch that scene again and see if you pick up on anything.
I love talking to you and appreciate the insights, Sebastian. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.